Alright, YouTube, this is my third attempt at making this, so forgive me if I skip anything. Alright, today we'll continue on the Lotus Esprit upgrades and repairs. We got the pistons slid back in. There was no damage from the oil failure. The only damage was from previous install, and it hasn't gotten any worse, so we're just going to leave it as is till I can afford to do all the bearings again. Well, just the conrod bearings, which are easy to do anyway. I forget if it's DLC coating or not, is holding up really good. It's diamond like carbon. Last time I kind of ran it on a little bit, so this time I want to get more into the performance aspect. Head bolts stretch when you got a lot of really high cylinder pressure, so that's why we use ARP head studs. They now got custom age ones out, which I highly suggest, but they are a lot more money than the next tier lower. I forget what these are. Polishing the cylinder head has to be done to perfection. Otherwise, you'll get a cylinder head that looks like this in a hurry. Maybe you dumped a little oil from your turbo in it because you overdid the pressure, or maybe you ran it really rich because you didn't get it tuned in yet. Things like this happen, but if you look anywhere where it was injected, it is clean as a whistle, whereas carbon would be built up on there too. That's why you smooth poured it. And golf ball dimples don't really make a big difference. If you are going after every last 1/10 of a percent and you have the machining and tooling to test it, which nobody has ever properly tested the flow. Verchromer has a video out that somebody pointed out, one of the people that watched my YouTube videos, and I was pretty disappointed that they pointed them out because they have no real good conclusive data. I use a multi-layer steel gasket because the stock one is kind of a cardboard thing. If your stock car has one of these gaskets, just use the factory gasket unless it's known for failure. I had a Volkswagen pushing over 400 horsepower out of their little 170 something horsepower fucking 12 valve. And I used stock gasket. I did blow it once, but I think that was more fuel issue. I think I had some detonation and I blew out the side. Let's talk more about this header. So the issue with this header, there's a couple issues. One, it's very heavy and it's very hard to lug in and out of the car. Two, this turbo is hard to take off for maintenance, just because it's so big and the position's kind of wonky. So we're gonna do the header for that reason. And then the other reason we're gonna do this header is because the inside is real bad. Can't see down in there anymore, but I did clean it out. I didn't polish it or anything, but I had previously cleaned this thing up and made these mouths more even. But inside it's real nasty right around here. Those tubes get about that big. If you can imagine, they go from that big to that big. That's not really good performance thing. Back up to this bigger width. It's like an expansion chamber effect, and that holds in heat and makes the cylinders not burn even. And you can even see it on my motor. The two inside guys are burning good. The two outside guys are... Oh, wait. The two inside guys are not burning good, and the two outside guys are burning good, even though this is an unequal length exhaust system, which is another no-no. So we're going to make these equal lengths by pairs. These are going to be equal to these. Well, these and these are going to be equal. That's the big deal. You don't really have to make this set and this set exactly equal to each other on a 4-cylinder application, because it's a cross-plane type crank. Now, if you're doing a V8, you want everything even, and you want to match the cylinders differently, and you're going to want that cross-flow pipe, unless you got a flat plane V8. Then if you got a flat plane, you make 2 4-cylinder headers. It's a lot simpler. What does flat plane mean? I didn't know. I was like, what the hell is flat plane and cross plane? Flat plane is just these two come up at the same time and those two go down at the same time. If you have a V8 that's flat plane, you'll have that same effect on the other side. Easy peasy. Alright, and what this is going to do is I will gain a little bit of throttle response, but I'll gain a lot more horsepower out of having a nice tuned header like that, because you know, pulses start building up at the higher RPM. You get better what's called cylinder evacuation. That's going to pull the gases out of the cylinder instead of them forcing out of the cylinder, which is what's pretty much happening right now. There's a great article on Grumpy's Performance about pulse tuning exhaust. I highly suggest you read that and ignore the fuck out of Engineering Explains. Bullshit explanation that it goes into zero detail about how an exhaust system actually works. I've been all over that guy's case in several forums. He has not bothered to respond. I would love to hear his explanation of why he made that video and passed it off as an engineering video. Alright, let's get more into this this header deal. So I'm using 304 stainless. It's a no-no. Use 327 stainless. I couldn't get it. I highly suspect that there's something bad might happen to this. This is going to mate to Inconel though, which I got cheap. I got lucky. But if you can't get it, 327 stains alright. It's what Alanox, the company that I'm not going with, uses for their stuff. I actually think they might make a 304 stainless header, but it's kind of thin, and you don't really want thin on a turbocharged application. You've seen these things get red hot. They get red hot, they warp, they blow out. All kinds of bad things happen when you're, especially in a Lotus Esprit where you should be wrapping your exhaust. The heat kind of gets out and destroys things and causes fires. So that's kind of rambled on a little bit, but that's more why I'm making this header. It's going to be lighter, easier to get out of the car, which this thing takes 2 hours to get out, no kidding, because you know, the stud will have come out and the bolt will have come out, and you know, anybody who's dealt with cars for a long time, you can see there's only 3 studs sitting in this thing. All the other studs came out with the bolts. That's not really fun, so this is going to be all bolt in. This is where we're not going to use studs, and we're going to put a lock wire through them. And what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to slip my turbo off, and then if I need to unbolt it, I can unbolt it on the floor where I have access, whereas this header puts it right up against the engine. And I'll be able to get my hand in there, you know, and I'll be able to take the middle 2 out, easy peasy, and then I can take the outer 2 out, easy peasy, with a, you know, with an actual socket wrench, instead of getting in there with just the tip of that wrench and then going to a socket wrench and going back to that. I even had trouble installing it right here on the garage floor. So yeah, that's about it for today. We'll get some more videos out. I'll be doing one of these every day, trying to get this car back in a reasonable condition. Every day that I work on it, I will put out a video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See ya.